everyone, welcome back to my channel and welcome back to another Sims 4 speed build. So this week I am for the last time continuing my Build New Crest Community Lots Edition project where I fill up all of New Crest with each of the different types of community lots that we have in The Sims 4. And this week we are building the very last lot, which is the restaurant. So this is the Cowboy Burger restaurant. And I tried to go with something a little bit different compared to everything else that's been in this neighborhood, because, you know, like, everything else has been, like, much more modern and trendy, and for a restaurant, I wanted to do something a little different. So I decided to go with, like, this kind of down-home, country, western-styled restaurant. So the building is basically a giant barn with a partial wraparound porch, and I kind of, like, I loosely based this off of a real-life restaurant, sort of. So, I actually don't know of any restaurants that are shaped like barns. I'm sure there are probably some out there, but I just don't know of them. But the whole, like, vibe of this place, I was kind of going for something that's similar to Cracker Barrel. So, if you're not from the United States, or if you've never been to a Cracker Barrel restaurant, basically it's kind of like a country-style Southern American restaurant, and they're known for a few things. They're known for, like, their food, which is, like, this very, like, Southern comfort food style of food. All of their restaurants have very large front porches that are lined with rocking chairs, which, unfortunately, we don't have rocking chairs in The Sims 4, but if we did, I would have put rocking chairs on the front porch, but I didn't, because we don't have them. And they're also known for their gift shops. So I didn't put a gift shop in because it wouldn't really function very well actually in the game, because you can't have, like, a store and a restaurant all in the same lot, which is kind of a bummer, but you know. But yeah, so just the whole general vibe of this place, I was kind of going for something that's very much like a Cracker Barrel restaurant, but obviously not identical to it, because they're not shaped like giant barns, and this one obviously is. So, I called it Cowboy Burger because I wanted to also do something that was a little bit different as well. Like, I tried to make it seem like it was something you would see, like, out west somewhere. So near the end of the build, you'll see I go through and I paint the terrain to be kind of like a variation of the desert paint that we have in the game, and I put in, like, a bunch of, like, typical Western style plants, like cactuses, or not cactuses, cacti, or yeah. So it's kind of a different vibe compared to everything else in this neighborhood. But that's kind of the issue with New Crest that I have. Like, I love New Crest because it's this big empty world. So it gives you the opportunity to put in whatever you want or whatever you don't already have in the game. Like, you can do that. But because it was sort of based off of, like, the stylings of Willow Creek, if you wanted to do something that is more like an Oasis Springs style of build, it doesn't necessarily fit in with the rest of the world. So, for the most part, I've been sticking with things that would actually make sense in this world. But this is the last build video for this series, so I wanted to go all out. So, you know, obviously, this probably wouldn't have worked so well if I had stuck with what the actual theme of the neighborhood is, because modern and cowboys, like, it just doesn't really go together. So, yeah, so that's kind of where I was going with this build. I use a lot of the booths in the restaurant, which I don't tend to use very much. Like, I'll use them some in restaurants, but, because to me, like, they're very authentic to what restaurants are actually like, but unfortunately, the way that they work in The Sims 4, they tend to take up a lot of space, I feel, and, like, especially the corner booths, like, you can only sit 2 people at those corner booths. For some reason, they won't work if you have, like, chairs on the outside parts of the table, even though, like, in real life, you could certainly have chairs there and people could sit down and it wouldn't be a problem. But for some reason in The Sims 4, they made it so that if you have a corner booth, you can only sit on the booth side of things and not on, like, the chair side, which is odd considering that the straight pieces of booth, you can sit on both sides. So, not really sure why they did that. So, I don't tend to use the booths very much, but for this style of restaurant, I thought it really made a lot of sense. I do actually take out some of the booths around the edge in a little bit to try to get... I realized that all of the seating was only for 2 people or for 4 people. Like, there were no tables for 8 or 6. And I was like, uh-oh. So if I had, like, a bigger family coming to this restaurant, they would have to split up at multiple tables, which I don't even know if they would actually do that or if they just wouldn't. I don't know how that works in this game because I've never been in a situation where that would be applicable. But even still, like, you know, I remember growing up and stuff, like, in real life, where we would have, like, my dad's entire side of the family. Like, my dad, growing up, had several sisters, and they all have kids, and so, like, plus my grandparents, like, if we all went out together for dinner somewhere, there were 16 of us. So, you know, we walk into a place, and it's like, okay, let's push together some tables, but sometimes that wasn't an option. So we would have to, like, split up and go to multiple tables. So, like, typically there would be, like, an adult's table and a kid's table, which, as a kid, I always thought, hey, this is pretty cool, like, because I was one of the older cousins, too, so, like, you know, I was supposed to be more of the responsible people in the kids' table, but, you know, that didn't always work out, because I was also still a child, so I like to cause mischief and trouble sometimes. I mean, I'll never admit it, but I guess I just did. But, like, in reality, like, I don't know how much that would really work. And, like, as an adult, I would be terrified. Like, even if they were, like, at the next table over, like, you know, a group of kids unsupervised is never going to behave as well as if they would with an adult there. So I decided to take out some of the booths and put in some tables for bigger seating areas. Also, the other thing that I did want to mention is that, and I don't know how this happened, but Move Objects was being very strange when I was doing this build. And after I stopped recording, I went in to take screenshots and do the little video for the intro, and the booths along the one side of the restaurant all disappeared. And I don't know why. I didn't do anything else to the outside of the build afterwards. It was like, okay, save, good, go in, start taking videos and pictures for screenshots, and upload to the gallery, which I did before I realized this. And for some reason, all of the booths on the, like, if you're looking at the front door of the restaurant, the booths on the right-hand side all disappeared. Don't know why. So if you do download this lot, just know that there's going to be, like, a section that doesn't have the booths there anymore. So you can either put them back in yourself. You'll probably have to turn on Move Objects because the curtains were being kind of problematic too. But, like, seriously, how could I not use those curtains? Like, if there was ever a time to use those, like, super patriotic Americana, you know, blue with the white stars curtains, like, this build was it. So yeah, obviously I had to use those curtains. And, but yeah, so you might, well, you not might, but you'll definitely need to either place the booths there or dining chairs there, so that way then Sims will actually sit down to eat. But yeah, so just something to keep in mind. It's not a big deal to go in and plop in a few chairs or plop in the booths. Just, I'm not sure why they disappeared. That's the only odd thing that I can't figure out, because I didn't do anything to the build. But I also noticed that, like, some of the decorations in the kitchen itself sort of disappeared as well. So, didn't move it to a new lot, didn't change the outside structure, didn't change the inside structure. They just disappeared. So, you know, that's a fun thing to ponder over. I mean, I guess I did technically change something, because I did the lighting inside of the build after I stopped recording. So, like, technically I placed lights, but I can't imagine that placing overhead ceiling lights would make things disappear. But, you know, I mean, this is The Sims. Stranger things have happened, so you never know. But yeah, so I had a good time picking out the music for this video. I don't know if it's ever really that noticeable, but I always like having a little bit of background music when I'm doing voiceovers, because sometimes if I lose my train of thought like I just did, or, you know, like, it's a nice way to kind of intro and end the video, like when I'm not talking. And then I just sort of, like, you know, let it gradually build up in volume, and then I gradually decrease in volume. But so I was picking out music, and I don't listen to country music very often. I don't really have anything against it, it's just not something that I choose to listen to very much. Or like, if I do, it's because like it reminds me of very specific moments in my life. Like, I have one aunt in particular who, when I was growing up, we were very close, and I spent a lot of time with her, and she was always a big fan, she still is a big fan of country music, so like I always associate country music with her. My dad also went through a phase, like maybe in the early 2000s or so, where he was really into country music, so like a lot of family vacations and road trips and stuff at that point in my life, we would listen to country music in the car when it was his turn to play a CD because, oh yeah, CDs, and we all rotated turns. So like on family trips, we had all of our CD wallets would be in the front seat with mom and dad, and we would take turns. Like, you know, we would do a kid CD and then a grown-up CD. So it would be like, you know, my turn and then one of my parents, and then one of my siblings would have their turn, and then the other one of my parents, and then the third sibling would have their turn. So we always worked it out where, like, because there were more siblings than parents, like, there would be two siblings that would go back to back in the rotation. But a lot of times my dad would pick, like, a country CD of his, which at the time I was, like, grown. Like, I don't want to listen to this, Dad. But now I do kind of associate that with him and also with my aunt from when I was much younger. Also, the third thing that I always think of whenever I listen to country music is there used to be I don't even know how to explain this, a lumberjack show at our state fair. And it was called the Hank Peters Lumberjack Show. It had been around for like years. Like, I'm pretty sure it was playing at the Ohio State Fair when my parents were kids. Like, and it was this guy, he's a lumberjack from Canada actually, named Hank Peters, and he started this show, and it was like lumberjack competitions, like log rolling and canoe jousting and, you know, throwing axes. And then he always did this thing where he would like take a chainsaw and cut up a piece of wood to make little doll chairs. And I don't know, it was basically the same show every year, but it always reminds me of country music because that's what they used in like the intro and stuff. So yeah, anyways, so this is the Cowboy Burger restaurant. It is currently available on the gallery for this download in The Sims 4. You can get to it either in the link in the description box below this video, or you can search for it on the gallery using either my username, which is Mrs. Tomato 1018, or you can search for it using the hashtag Mrs. Tomato 1018. Also, at the very end of the video, there are some screenshots of what all of New Crest looks like filled in with all of the, you know, non-residential lots that I've built. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this series. There will be more build videos again in the future. So anyways, thank you so much for watching. I hope you liked this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't already subscribed to my channel, you can do so down below. I put out a new video every single day, Monday through Friday. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all in my next video. Bye!